Hey guys, I'm Nathan from Arms and Armor. Today I want to show you two swords I just finished up and examine how two different disc pommels and grip lengths influence how these swords perform and how they're used. Stay tuned. People are frequently surprised how short the grips of some medieval arming swords are. So this is our Fornovo sword. It is a Type 18 arming sword from the late 15th century, probably Italian. It has a disc pommel with these expanded center, right? So the center ring extends outside of the normal disc. The grip is just a touch over 3 inches long, and we have this short, straight crossguard. When you hold this sword, you have to grip the pommel. Unless your hand is minuscule, it sits right against the butt of your palm, which is a lever, right? It gives you control for back edge cuts and rising cuts and master strikes, right, from the German tradition. It also is a very good sword for cutting through and around in the Bolognese tradition. This pommel serves as part of the grip. Right? This one, you can see it's not peened yet. It's just put together. So that's why that's sticking out there a little bit. This piece weighs a bit over 2 pounds, right? 2.2, 2.3. It's very fast. It was probably a bit more of a civilian sword for unarmored fighting, mostly. And I say this because it would be quite difficult to use with a gauntlet. Right? Your hand really wouldn't fit in there in the way that it's supposed to if you're wearing a metal glove. Now, another sword that's also a Type 18 arming sword is our Henry V. If you look at these, they're superficially kind of similar in the hilt. They both have disc pommels. They both have relatively short grips, although the Henry's grip is about 1/2 inch longer, and that makes all the difference, really. So, the Henry V sword, right, is modeled after the sword that hung above Henry V's tomb for many years. Honestly, we don't know if he ever used it, but he might have. And it's certainly from that correct time period. This is early 15th century, so it is possibly up to 100 years earlier than the Fornovo sword, but probably more like 75 years earlier. The disc pommel on this sword serves a different function, right? So you can look at it, and the central sections of the pommel project about half as far as those on the Fornovo do, right? Which means that as you hold this, there's a range of ways you can put your hand on it. The pommel doesn't necessarily have to seat in the same kind of way. You can hold it in the center. That 1/4 or 1/2 inch of grip length totally changes the way that you hold this sword. Now, this is clearly a wider bladed sword. It's shorter. It's very acute on the point. And I'd say that there is actually room on this hilt to wear a gauntlet for war. It's also a sword that you can cut down with very readily. If you were mounted, or if you're fighting, for example, with a shield, this would be the perfect weapon for that. But what it doesn't have is that same kind of connection to the back of your hand that gives you leverage for using the false edge. Not that you couldn't. Of course you can cut false edge with this, right? But the responses the sword has in your hand and the kind of leverage that you have holding it are substantially different because of the shape of the pommel and of the grip, right? So these design features like pommel shape and the length of the grip can give us significant clues about how these swords were supposed to be used, and they have to be designed on purpose because they highly influence how you hold it, what kinds of techniques come naturally to you while holding these two different awesome Type 18 arming swords from the 15th century. So check out our Henry V sword, check out our Fornovo sword. They're both fantastic, but very different pieces. Thank you.